Discover Help presents Stress-Free Living with Ray Samich and Mr. Stress-Free Ratanjit S. Sandhi. This audio program is an unscripted and unrehearsed conversation between Ray and Ratanjit. It is shared with you in hope of adding value to your life. We encourage you to listen to this program in its entirety to receive the full impact of its message. Sit back, relax, open your heart, mind, and soul to this edition of Stress-Free Living.
I'd like to welcome you to Stress-Free Living. I'm Ray Samich, and I'd like to introduce all of you to my dear friend, my long time radio colleague, and my dear spiritual brother, Ratanjit Sandhi. Ratanjit, how are you today?
Wonderful, Ray. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. We do want to tell all of our audiences, however you may be watching us or listening to us, that there are a variety of ways to do that. But we also want to especially let you know about our YouTube radio channel, where you can not only listen live, you can't do it live, but you can catch the pre-recorded shows that we have out there and all of the recorded shows that we have done over the last couple of years. So there's about 80 shows that have been set there for you to enjoy, and they're all titled. So if you would like to at any time catch any of our Stress-Free Living radio shows, you are welcome to do that. Just go to YouTube and check out Stress-Free Living Radio. That's what you want to search on, and you will come up with a variety of shows for you and maybe for you to share with others. Ratanjit, we started talking about adding value, which is, of course, your mantra. I mean, that is probably your most pronounced statement that you have made over all of these years, adding the highest value to be in particular. And you've come up with a very clever way for people to understand and know how to do it with the letters ADDVALUE, each one of those standing for something. We started that, but we also took a little break here. So as a bit of a summary to kind of get people back on track, let's talk about the idea of adding value versus the adding highest value. How do you define the difference, the critical difference between those two?
You know, fundamentally, you have a electric shaving, which you use for your daily routine. So
I do. You don't, but I do.
Now, if that thing works sometimes or doesn't work sometimes, you're going to throw it away. So anything which does not add the value, we don't keep it. So same thing with our society. Workers, we fire the workers who do not add value. And then adding the highest value are the ones who are promoted. Adding the highest value are the ones who achieve success. So basically, the whole journey of humanity is based on our adding the highest value. Now, many of us add highest value in certain area. And sometimes, we add highest value or we add value to people who have added value to us. So we add value conditionally. We do not add value unconditionally. When we add value unconditionally, because we never know when the situation would be such that person who we don't have anything to do with becomes critical element in our life. So if we continuously add value, highest value, unconditionally to everyone, we create a situation where we succeed against all odds. So now to add value unconditionally, we have to become a highest value adding entity. Otherwise, our mind, our five senses would gather informations no, this is not the good situation to add value. This person is not good, so I can add value. So it is always going to restrict us from adding the highest value unconditionally. So to become an entity which automatically, without thinking, adds the highest value unconditionally, that only can happen if we understand this recipe, which is hidden in the add value, ADDVALUE. So we are starting to decipher this each letter. Last time we deciphered A, which is very, very critical, very important, which is a foundational aspect of all our entire concept. So I want to repeat what is A stands for. A stands for basically awareness. So the real intelligence does not depend on our knowledge, or education, or experience, or title, or trophies, or awards, or wealth. Our real intelligence is directly proportional to the extent of our awareness of the truth. The real truth is that we are all one. We are basically, there's a scientist, everybody knows Albert Einstein, who once said, when he was in his old age, and finally, when he realized the ultimate secret of living, he says, a person experiences life as something separated from the rest. That's what we do. A person experiences life as something separated from the rest. Then he says, it is a kind of optical delusion. And then he says, our task must be to free ourselves from this self-imposed prison. He calls it a prison. And through compassion, to find the reality of oneness. So although it does not seem like the real thing, what is oneness? Your body is different. Your fingerprints are different. Your blood is different. Everything is, when you go to a doctor, he treats you differently, has to, because your body is different. But what unites us, what makes us one, is the force, the divine power, the universal power, which makes us alive. So enlivening force is equivalent to understand this, it is equivalent to the electricity which comes into a light bulb and makes it alive, makes it lighted. So powerhouse is directly connected to each light bulb when it is lit. So it is a live wire connection to the powerhouse. So each light bulb has the same power in them to become lighted. So similarly, when we are alive, we have the same universal power which is present, and we have direct connection to that universal power. And when that connection is cut, our life ends. So all this human body remains intact, and we are dead. So this awareness of basically this truth of oneness, which unifies us into one, basically tells us, it guides us to add highest value unconditionally. To understand further. So when we go to church or temple or all that, when we worship God, whereas the universal power, the God, is present right within us. So when we see other person, rather than the worldly given name or title or gender or color or race, we see in them the enlivening force, universal force. We see them a presence of universal power within them. So our incentive is to serve them. Our incentive is to serve the God in them. So when we are serving the highest entity present in this universe, which is the universal power, we cannot practice mediocrity. We have to add the highest value. So the incentive to add the highest value comes from this understanding and this knowledge and awareness of this fact that enlivening force, universal power, is present in each person who is alive, or everything which is in front of us. So we add the highest value not only to the person, to the environment. So every decision we make, we constantly make sure that we add the highest value. And this highest value is a journey. So it's not doing our best. It is constantly making our best better. Right? Before I go to the next letter, you want to have a comment?
Oh, not really. You summed it up beautifully. Everything that I had made a little note of that I was going to add to it from that last program, you covered it and more. So let's move on. You've got me interested very much. So even though we've done this before, it's been a while, and I don't remember what each one of the letters stands for. So what is the first D? What does that stand for?
No, first D is the director in us. So the movie of our life depends on the quality of the movie, how it is designed, how it is done by the director who is directing it. So who is directing us? So far we have this knowledge of awareness of the fact that we are one. But we are still, the fundamental fact is we can have all the knowledge in the world, but ultimately we are basically governed by our habits, not by our knowledge. So the good example is the average age of United States citizen is around 78 years, or maybe a little less or more. It's always changing. But the doctor's average age is less than that, almost 10 years less than that. So doctors are qualified to understand how to maintain good health, but they do not live by that knowledge. They live by the habit they have cultivated.
So I just want to clarify, because I don't know if I heard it wrong or if you said it maybe not right. We're talking about the average age of death, the mortality rate in the United States, right? Okay, not the average age, but the average age that people die.
Average life cycle.
Right. Lifespan, the lifespan for people. So the point is that doctors who are the most knowledgeable about how to stay healthy actually live a lot shorter life than the average American.
Yes.
Despite all the knowledge.
Because they live by the habits, not by the knowledge. And if you are born in a doctor's family, you are given pills constantly. You are not treated. The symptoms are being addressed, not the cure. So you are constantly you're basically a sick family. So I'm taking a general approach. There are very healthy families. There are very healthy doctors. There are doctors who live 100 years. So it's not a common thing, but we are talking about the average.
Right.
So who is directing our movie? Basically, insecurities, fear, greed, prejudice, jealousy, anger, lust, ego. This is what is directing our movie. So once you are directed by the omnipresent truth of oneness, which automatically focuses you on adding the highest value, you become the highest value adding entity, and you become to add the highest value unconditionally. So to understand this thing further, fundamentally, we are directed by our emotions. Although we say, use your brain, we generally make all our decision on emotions. What I like, what I don't like. So our emotions are directed by either the duality or oneness. Most of us are not even aware of oneness. We are basically a habit of living in duality. You and me, you and me, you and me. So everything is decided by our duality mindset. So it is going to take a while to convert this habit of living in oneness. So all our decisions have to be directed by our emotions are directed by oneness, the truth of oneness, not by the duality which we have practiced all our life. So Ray, you have a comment before I go further?
But I think it's probably a really good time to take a break, Ratanjit. You introduced the D and what that stands for, and I want to hear much more about it. This is Stress-Free Living, with our goal of helping you to have a life that has less stress in it, that has you feel content and pleased, not only at night when you put your head on the pillow, but all day long, doing whatever you're doing. Adding value, adding the highest value, being that type of person in your environment, in your family, in your workplace, can help you attain that stress-free life. And that's what we're trying to do and help you with today. We'll be right back in just a moment. Okay. Only two of you here today, but we're glad to have you both. Any of you have a comment for us or a question that we can ask Ratanjit?
Well, all I can say is that when you talked about the A and awareness, it really strikes home, and it really opens your eyes. Like, wow, that's something we really have to be aware of. Is awareness around, and I try to help people and do things, and then sometimes I catch myself like, oh. Are you doing this just to make you look good, or are you doing it because and I catch myself occasionally feeling that way. Like, no, it isn't about you. You gotta be aware of all this other stuff. So I really appreciated the awareness thing, and then I'm anxious to hear the rest of them.
Very good, thanks. Dr. Jagjit, any comments?
No, everything is fine. Good.
Okay, very good. All right. How much time do you want to spend on director yet, Ratanjit? Quite a bit, or what is it?
A little bit more time, yeah.
A little bit more. Okay.
So is it becoming clear?
Yeah, no, it's good. I like who's directing your movie. I really like that line. Who's directing your movie of your life?
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal that one. That's a good one. I wonder if Steven Spielberg's available. I've still got a few years left. We are back on Stress Free Living. Ray Samich with you and Ratanjit Sandhi talking today about adding the highest value and maybe taking it to that level of becoming a value adding entity. How can we do that? A stands for awareness. D in add value stands for director. Who's directing the movie of our life? Ratanjit, share us some more thoughts about how we should be the director the way we need to be for the most fulfilling life.
Yes, there is another thing which we have to realize, and we have to ask this question. Why do we act and behave differently under different circumstances and conditions? Each one of us behave differently under different. We are not constant. We are not predictable. Our circumstances and our conditions control us. The fact is that we operate in the human body mode, and the human body is made of different elements. Now, each element behaves differently under different circumstances. You take, for example, water. Water at room temperature between 1 degree and 99 degrees, it is liquid. When it is below 0 degree centigrade, it is ice. It becomes solid. And when it is above 100 degrees centigrade, it vaporizes, it becomes steam. So whether it's liquid or solid or gas, it depends on the temperature. So similarly, when we are operating in the human body mode, human body is made out of the elements of the earth. It is going to change. So it is going to get angry, it is going to be anxious, it is going to be worried, it's going to be happy. It's all those situations are going to happen. You will not feel like adding the highest value. You don't feel like doing things. You will feel lazy. So if you operate in the human body mode, you are unpredictable. And it is only when your brain, the operating manager of this human body, when it is controlled by our 5 senses, it operates in the human body mode. When this brain is controlled by the power present in us, the power is not made of the elements of this earth, and it does not change its behavior or its properties under different circumstances. It is consistent. So when your life's movie is directed by the power which enlivens you, you are more predictable. You are more controlled. You are not affected by circumstances. So it is very important who is directing your movie, whether your human body mode is operating your brain, directing your movie, or the power which enlivens you is directing your movie. Right? Do you have a comment?
I do. And I don't want to get hung up just on words that you've chosen to use here with predictable and unpredictable. But I get the idea that says if the driving force is deeper than our emotions, if it's deeper than our greed and our envy, then we are more predictable because we have that rock, right? We have that anchor that ultimately directs us. So I get that. But when it comes to the word of predictability, I find the people that I'm most fascinated by, and I even find that I like myself the most when I'm unpredictable, when I am spontaneous. For people that are fun-loving and creative, and again, I don't want to get hung up on words there, but because you've used predictability in that certain way, but I'm using it, I guess, in a different way. I mean, the more creative we are, which I know you've always addressed as being a wonderful trait, to tap into the resources of the world around us and expand our brains fully to everything. That creativity that we have makes us less predictable, right? I mean, it makes us more, you never know what we're going to do. You never know what's going to be said. You never know what ideas are going to come in our heads. So am I just getting words confused there, or is there some relevance to how you've used that?
Thank you very much for bringing this side of this. The predictability only in the sense of adding the highest value.
Okay.
So you are predictable to add the highest value, and you must use the diversified property, because on one side of the equation, when we decipher who are we also consider this human body to be unique. You possess unique qualities. So you add the highest value uniquely. So you have to use your creativity in terms of adding the highest value. And again, the highest value under one circumstances is different than other circumstance. So it's not doing the same thing over and over again. So adding under a different circumstance, you have to evaluate what would add the highest value. So highest value itself continuously changes from one situation to another. But the mindset of adding the highest value remains the same. So when I'm talking about the predictability, I'm basically focusing on predictable to add the highest value unconditionally.
And if we are filled with ego and greed, and all of us have that at various times at different levels, but when we are filled at that, it's almost impossible to add the highest value, right? I mean, at that point, we are so self-centered. We're so worried about our own feelings and our own benefits and what it means to me, that it's almost impossible for us to see beyond that garbage, as you use that term, beyond that garbage to clearly understand what adds the highest value. So it's impossible to do that when you're in the ego mode.
Absolutely. That you will remain, the ego comes from separation. When you are separate, when you think you are separate, then ego comes, I am this. So you suddenly start, because of insecurity, you are basically, ego is the direct opposite of insecurity. The more insecurity you have, the higher ego you will have. The more secure you become, the less ego you have. The highest security comes from the fact that you become you defeat the death. The death can be defeated only by remaining in the universal energy mode because it never dies. So you have the fear of death taken away from you. And only death happens to the human body, not to you. So once you understand your own identity and begin to see that identity unified with universal force, which enlivens you, you become very secure. So automatically ego goes away. And automatically, when you see yourself as the universal power, you see others the same way as the universal power. So you basically are focused automatically on adding the highest value.
You know, you gave an example many shows ago about how the brain has to be doing something, constantly has to be busy. That's the very nature of the brain. If as long as it is functioning properly and it's not in a a health condition where it has been affected, but for 99.9% of us where the brain functions, it has to be constantly in use. Even when we're sleeping, 24/7, 365, it just always is working. Since there's got to be some other authority telling the brain what to think about, right? The brain isn't going to tell itself what to think about. Some part of our being has to direct that brain. So if we tell the brain to think about how to be egotistical, how to be insecure, how to be self-centered, then the brain is going to concentrate on that. If we somehow are addressing the brain and saying, no, that's the wrong approach, think about adding the highest value to the world, to the environment, to my community, to my friends, to my strangers, to every person that I encounter, then the brain is going to be busy doing that, right? But you can't split the difference. They are, as you said, they're opposites. So you can't say, well, how can I do this in a way that is great for me, but also adds the highest value to the world? That in a direct way, that is impossible to be egotistical and also to be totally not egotistical. I mean, you can't have the opposites at the same time, right?
Yeah,
So you have to, so you displace one or the other.
Yeah, that reminds me of the story which basically clarifies what you're saying. And there was a person who would go to a particular religious place constantly, whether it was rain or shine or snow or so. Once God appeared, and he said, you are so dedicated. So I'm so impressed. Ask anything, which of course, God appeared in the form of a saint so that he can relate to him. And so saint says that, ask me anything, I can give you. So this guy says, give me a magic lamp. So genie. So when I rub it, the genie would come, and as I ask genie to give me whatever I want. So this saint says that, of course, I can give you the genie, but that is very dangerous because genie works very fast. So if you cannot keep genie occupied, it is going to destroy you. So in that case, if you run into that situation, come to me, I can put it back into the magic lamp. So he says, no, don't worry about that. I have so many things to accomplish. So he rubs it and he makes a list of things he wants in a house. So it took me 2.5 days to describe all the things he wanted in the house. to this genie, and he says, okay, go do it. So within a few seconds, the genie says, it's done. I say, wow. So he gave another task, and which he did it again. So he got scared. He ran back to this saint, and he says, what to do? He says, ask him to build a huge, long pole, miles long pole, and ask him to go up and go down, go up and go down, go up and go down till you say, so that is never going to end. So similarly, we are given this genie as a brain. So if we do not occupy it properly, it is going to cause worries, it is going to cause greed, it is going to cause ego, it's going to, all these problems are generated by this genie, which is in the form of the brain. So the equivalent of this pole is adding the highest value. If you park him into adding the highest value, think, how do I add the highest value? Is this the higher value? Can you not make it better? So now this brain is involved in making your best better constantly, which is never-ending cycle. And as a consequence, instead of world having your competition is your last best. You are continuously improving your last best and adding the highest value. And that is a sign of a successful businessman or successful person or successful company, because they make their own product or own service obsolete by making available a better product or better service, because they are in the cycle of adding the highest value. Right?
Making some notes. I'm enjoying many of your stories here today, and plan to steal some of them on my next opportunities to share with others some of the wisdom that comes from you. I think we're ready to move on to the second D, and rather than interrupt you later, I'm going to take a short break here. We have one more break that we need to get in for our listening audience here on radio, and we'll come back. We've covered the A and the D, and we're going to move on to the second D, the third letter of add, as we are breaking down what it means to truly add value. In fact, add the highest value. This is Stress Free Living. We'll be back in just a moment. Okay, we have about 90 seconds before we come back, and then we'll take it out with the second one. We've had a new guest that has joined us very recently. And if anybody who have any comments right now or questions, I can ask those of Ratanjit in the next cycle.
Hi, Jogesh. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. I today remembered, yes, I had the link and I thought I must as well connect to you.
So
And this is very interesting to.
I don't know how much you have caught us, but any comment or any questions?
There's always one question lurks in my mind. Is the final goal important in life, or the process is important? Because in project management and these issues, we stress more on the process. But to succeed in life, the continuous thing of maintaining a goal in your mind is more important. This is a dilemma.
Good idea. Ray?
Like a show, right? The journey or the destination.
Yeah.
Do we want to leave a legacy? Is our legacy our accomplishment or our journey?
No, my question is legacy. Everyone wants to leave, no doubt about it. But
Yes.
the point is to leave and create that legacy is always keeping the ultimate focus in mind, the goal in mind is more important, or the process? In the process, you have values, customs to follow, and in achieving the goal, sometimes you have to forego your customs, maybe social norms, and take shortcuts, maybe. So, what is more important?
We are coming back here. We are back on Stress Free Living. Ratanjit and yours truly, Ray Samich, with you as we are talking today about adding value, having an interesting conversation here off the air with the members of our Zoom guests, our Zoom feature that we do here every week. If you would like to be part of that, go out to our Stress Free Living Radio YouTube channel and you can pick up the access code there to join us on this program. Ratanjit, we will get to some of those topics here in the future. I don't know if it's necessarily relevant with what we were just talking about on the break to the show. So I think we need to get into the second D and find out as we're continuing to add value. So we talked about the first D being standing for director. What does the second D stand for?
Yeah, before, I think that question is very relevant to what we are talking about. The question was what is more important, the goal or the journey? So when your journey becomes adding the highest value, you automatically you surpass your goals. Goal is a dead end. You achieve the goal, you declared a success. When you are adding the highest value, you will always supersede the goal. You will always overpower the goal and you will achieve what you never expected. And basically, people talk about leaving a legacy, and it's not about leaving a legacy, it's always about adding the highest value. You will leave so many legacies by following this simple process mindset of constantly adding the highest value, constantly making your best better. And it's not limited to one subject. It's constantly any topic, any area. So continuously your learning is constantly there. You are constantly learning the new things to add the highest value. So you are automatically parked in the student mode rather than expert mode. It is known that when we learn new things, you enjoy your happiness. When you are 90 years old, still you are learning something new. It gives you the pleasure. So adding the highest value give you incentive to learn. When you are applying that knowledge which you have learned and you are adding the highest value, automatically everything, all the aspects of our life are answered by this incentive of adding the highest value unconditionally. Because you become a good student, you become valued added person. Everybody around you loves you, likes you because you always add the highest value, and you have higher self-worth because you add the highest value. Your net worth automatically increases because your company or your profession adds the highest value. So automatically everything falls in place once you understand the concept of adding the highest value. Right.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you were able to fit in that question and answer here before we moved on here with our program. We have enough time, I think, Ratanjit, to cover at least part of D. So ADD, what does that second D stand for as we're trying to learn how to add the highest value?
Second D is basically discipline. Without discipline, we do not achieve our freedom. Fundamentally, everything around is operated under a discipline. Universe operates under a discipline. Your human body operates under a discipline. So your total freedom, the real freedom, the only true freedom we ever have is the freedom to choose our disciplines. And it is by choosing and living our discipline that we create all our worldly freedoms or restraints or constraints. So it is by choosing. If you eat the right food, you have the freedom for good health. If you use the right word, the right language, you have the freedom to communicate. If you have the discipline to show respect, you have better relationship. If you have the discipline to unveil unique things and continuously make your best better, you have the discipline to add the highest value. So discipline is basically, you have to choose your disciplines, and understanding this very fact that it is your chosen discipline which can either imprison you or set you free. If you are you have a habit of indulgence, you have habit of drugs, you have habit of alcohol, you have habit of overeating, you are basically imprisoning yourself into bad health and completely lose control of your freedom. Whereas when you have the right habit, if you have the right discipline, you are able to handle it. Now, there are two types of disciplines. Disciplines which are dictated by your brain when it is being run by your human body. You are going to always directing the brain under the influence of five senses, which is filled with fear, greed, ego, jealousy, and wants. So ultimately, what is in it for me? Scenario which is controlling your brain. So once your brain is controlled by the divine power present in you, then only the right disciplines fall in place. So to understand this thing, basically our freedom depends on the disciplines. And the choosing the right disciplines depends on who is controlling your brain, whether it is being controlled by the universal power or it is controlled by the human body. So it is, it's a, I want to read certain definitions by the poet Rumi. Rumi was a very spiritual poet. So he defines what is poison. Poison is anything that is more than what is necessary. And it may be power, wealth, hunger, ego, greed, laziness, love, ambition, hate, or anything. What is fear is, anger. Once we can accept this control, non-acceptance of things that is beyond our control produces anger. Once we accept them, we first learn to tolerate them, which slowly leads to understanding, and then eventually it leads to resolving our anger. So another thing is, what is fear? Non-acceptance of uncertainty is fear. When we accept uncertainty, it becomes an adventure because your intuitive forces given to you, uniqueness given to you, would find a solution to overcome the fear. What is envy? Non-acceptance of the good in others is envy. It produces envy. When we accept that good, it becomes inspiration. You are inspired by the goodness which you notice in others. And again, what is hatred? Non-acceptance of a person who he is. If you don't accept it, it becomes hatred. When we accept that person unconditionally, that is what starting point of love. So these are basically disciplines we must have. There are good disciplines and there are bad disciplines. Good disciplines only happen when our mind is run by the universal power, and the bad disciplines happen, even they appear on the surface, they may be good, but basically they are addressing fear, greed, ego, because they are controlled by our five senses of the human body. Right?
We only have a short time left, but the way you're talking about disciplines, what's the difference between discipline and habit? I mean, good habits and bad habits. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of parallels. What's the difference between the disciplines and habits?
Disciplines is there is a force which is deciding. Habits you do without knowing. It is habit, because there is a portion in our brain which is called basal ganglia, and which does not use your thinking power, your brain power. It does things without thinking. Those are habits. Whereas discipline, you have to enforce a discipline, and ultimately it becomes a habit.
Okay. So the brain is required for disciplines.
Yes.
We have to conscientiously think of these and decide that we're going to do them.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Ratanjit, that brings us to the end of the show here. We're trying to work with add value. We have VALUE left to go. Hopefully we can find a way to knock all those out in our next program as we continue our 8 steps towards less stress and 8 steps towards becoming a value-adding entity. Ratanjit, thank you so much for sharing your love, your thoughts, your wisdom with all of us here today.
Oh, thank you so much.
I want to thank all of our Zoom guests, invite you again, if you would like to be part of that, we'd be happy to share the link so you can join us and converse with us during the breaks and before and after the program. And also, however you are listening to us on the internet, wintradio.com or live here in the Cleveland area, we welcome you and thank you for being with us. Remember, folks, we're all playing the same game. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we are staying on. We're off the radio now, but we are here and we're able to continue the conversation with anybody who has thoughts or ideas.
So did I answer your question, Jogesh?
Yeah, yes, quite a bit, I would say. Yes, that's inside the road in the mind. One will have to discipline to follow that, I guess, to
Yes.
make the journey meaningful in the life. Because once we come in life, certainly we have multiple roles, multiple goals as well to achieve. And we think, oh, we haven't done this so far, we have done only so much. So then there is some sort of uncertainty in the path to follow. So that's what I was trying to speculate, that there are two ways. One is adapt, just let the life go.
Yeah.
Just surrender to the Almighty and let the life go, or take charge by more discipline. There's a dilemma, some sort of a dilemma there, and these are the maybe the Eastern wisdom, Eastern word wisdom versus the Western word wisdom.
No. Acceptance is one thing, and the let the life go wherever it goes is separate thing. Acceptance means whatever circumstances we are placed under, we can complain it, we can sue somebody, we can do all those things, or we take that as the cards we are dealt with. When you are playing a game, you don't complain the cards you are dealt with. You play the game. So similarly, you are placed under a circumstances means you are dealt with with certain cards. So you accept that card, then you plan your game, and that game is played by the tools you have. The tools you develop by having the proper disciplines. Disciplines give you the tools. If you have the discipline to read properly, you have knowledge. If you have the discipline to master certain art, certain skills, you have that skills to help you. So discipline is required to cultivate those tools. So ultimately, life, when we talk about, everybody talks about leaving a legacy. So the concept of legacy, leaving a legacy, having the fame, having everybody remembers you, all that is ego-driven. It is always when your mind is being operated by the human body, you think of leaving a legacy. But when your mind is controlled by the universal power, you only think of servicing. You do not think of leaving a legacy. But as a consequence, you end up leaving a legacy because you are servicing, you are adding the highest value, you are elevating your service, you are making your best better when you are driven by the power which has no ego. It is only there to serve. Serving who? Because power in you makes you realize the power in everything else. So you are serving that power by making your best better.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Dr. Singh, you have any Dr. Jagjit Singh?
No, everything is fine. But I think you should clarify, as Ray has said, more among discipline and habit. How to change the discipline and based on knowledge instead of habits. That might be a bit confusing for the listeners, that sometimes our habit just become, we name it as a discipline. That I have a habit of, I have a habit of taking a tea at this time. So is it a discipline or is it a habit?
Yeah, it's a habit. Discipline is constantly engaging your brain.
Yeah.
Habit does not.
That is exactly what we should have spent a bit more time on how to engage for better discipline.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting is that that's a real simple one to say. Habit, I mean, making yourself a cup of tea doesn't require your brain power. But there's things that we do, I think, with our brain that are habits too. I mean, when we
Yeah.
immediately give a certain answer to something, because that's what we've always said, then the brain is a part of it, but it's still probably a habit. It's probably not a discipline. I think there's things that we use our brain for that are still habits. So that may be a good start for our next show to clarify that.
Yeah.
Very good point.
We can do a complete show on habits and discipline.
Okay. Well, habits and discipline, that we've done a lot on habits, but I don't know if we've tied that into the thought of disciplines. That could be a good show. Yeah, good. All right.
Doug, anything else?
Oh, I guess my comment would just be I've learned something today about listening to Ratanjit explain all of this, and that is what Ray said earlier is he's busy taking notes. And I thought I need to take more notes because you do still a lot of stuff that I listen to and I really enjoy. And I'm thinking, wow, I need to remember that. That's for sure. So I need to take more notes here. But I also like the comment about the ultimate goal, if you will, or the adding value. And then is that a goal or is it the destination? It sounds to me like maybe we have the ultimate goal value, but have all these, I don't know whether you would call them goals or not, but we have a lot of smaller stepstones that we take, that we try to fulfill to reach that ultimate goal. I don't know if you could have minor goals and then the ultimate goal or how that works, but I appreciated that comment because that really struck with me. Like, yeah, can't we have little goals to reach the ultimate goal? Yeah.
See, adding the highest value is a journey because you are continuously making your best better. You're not, so quality control, many of the companies have quality control. So quality control is basically producing the same thing again and again and again. Whereas adding the highest value, making your previous one better than now. So it's a journey. It's not a destination.
Gotcha.
Because your goal is quality. Your journey is adding the highest value.
I get you. Gotcha. Well, I'm an individual that I have habits a lot, and I also am very routine. I do this, and I've talked about my wife Patricia quite a bit, but she's kind of the opposite. She's the artist, and she loves to experience new things and whatever. And there's many times she has drugged me out of my shell, if you will, and said, "Doug, let's go do this, let's go do that." And then once you do it, you really enjoy it. It's that taking that step to overcome the fear, like you said, of going out there and doing it. So, learning from others and taking advantage of that is very important.
So why do we enjoy vacations at a new place? Because you break the habits of noticing everything. You go into this new place, you have never been there. So you open your eyes, you begin to notice everything. Whereas when you are in your town, you go from your home to office, and you don't even notice the streets. You sit in the car, your brain is preoccupied, and you don't even know how you reach all these 50 miles of distance.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. So you maintain the same mindset when you are continuously adding higher value than you did before. You are awakened. You remain in the present. You are utilizing your brain you're utilizing all your faculties, you're asking, how do I make it better? And
Yeah,
then,
very true. And, even listening to these shows and watching every Saturday, brings that out also. It opens up your mind like, wow, I need to think more about that. And I need to look more in that direction. So, I really enjoy them. You guys do a great job, and you sure do spark interest in my mind. I can tell you that.
yeah, there is another aspect of making your best better. So if you are truly honest with yourself to produce your best, you must utilize all your knowledge, all your education, all your skills, all your resources to make it the best. So what else you have to make it better?
Yeah.
The only thing you have not utilized is your innate energies, innate power, which is present within you, which has unlimited creativity and resources. So when you are feeling the pain, is like remember a scientist who is trying to develop this thing unique, which had never done before, which has never been invented before. So he or she is at a dead end. They tried all the knowledge which is present in the books and every experiment. They are not able to produce uniqueness. So at that time, they internally go inside, and whether they see something in the dream or something, they try crazy, which has never been tried. They invent something totally new, which has never been done before. So it is you begin to use the energy which is within you to produce your best better.
Yes. Thank you.
Ray?
I like that too. I just wrote down to make your best better. I put down dig deeper and reach higher. And while at first it means dig deeper, you would think dig deeper within us, but dig deeper within us to reach that ultimate source of power within us.
Yes.
By digging deeper within us. And then I had, but reach higher, okay? And the reach higher is the maximum use of our own abilities.
Yeah.
So you reach higher with our own abilities, but you dig deeper to find that ultimate power within us. That's the combination of making your best better. So like that.
Again, you let the change the director who is directing your movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Might as well get the best director. If we're going to have our movie, might as well get the best one possible.
Yeah.
Right. All right, everyone. We thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us during and after the show. You're always welcome. We will be back here live again next week, God willing, and we can talk with you all again then. Tell your friends.